Commander Veltar stared at the empty screen in front of him. For 3 days now, nothing had come from Earth. No radio signals. No video messages, no data streams, no chatter from human ships. The silence was complete and terrifying. He rubbed his 4 eyes with his long fingers. In all his years watching the humans, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were loud. They were always talking, always broadcasting, always making noise across the galaxy. Their communications filled the space lanes like a constant buzz of activity. Now there was nothing. "Sir?" called Lieutenant Kexra from her station. "I'm running deep scans of the Sol system again. The cities are still there. The ships are still moving in their normal patterns. But there's no response to our signals." Veltar turned his attention to the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Mars colony was still operating. The asteroid mining stations were still working. The orbital platforms around Earth were still functioning. Everything looked normal, but the silence was wrong. Very wrong. "Keep trying," he ordered. "Use every frequency we have. Someone has to answer." 3,000 light-years away, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Liberty Station, Earth's newest orbital defense platform. The massive structure floated in space between Earth and Mars, its weapon systems hidden behind panels that looked like normal communication arrays. Jake watched the alien probe signals coming from Veltar-S station. Each signal was logged, recorded, and ignored. "Sir, the Zephyrian commander is getting more worried," reported Sergeant Mary Collins from the communications desk. "His signals are becoming more urgent." Jake nodded. "Let him worry, that's the point." 3 days earlier, everything had changed. The message had arrived through quantum channels that most species didn't even know existed. The transmission was short, direct, and terrifying. It came from the ruins of a dead civilization in the Andromeda galaxy, sent by automated systems that had been waiting millions of years for the right moment to activate. Dr. Lisa Parker had been the first to decode the message. She worked in the basement levels of the Global Defense Initiative headquarters in Colorado, surrounded by quantum computers and translation software. The message was simple: they are coming. You have 72 hours. Hide your minds. Silence your thoughts. The hungry ones feed on consciousness itself. The transmission included coordinates, technical data, and star charts showing the path of something massive moving through space toward their galaxy. The data was clear. An ancient enemy was approaching, something that had destroyed entire civilizations. Across multiple galaxies, Lisa had run the calculations 3 times before she believed them. The approaching entities, whatever they were, would reach the outer edge of their galaxy within months. The dead civilization's warning was specific. They were attracted to active minds, to the electromagnetic signatures of thinking beings. The only way to survive was to become invisible. President John Hayes had made the decision in less than 6 hours. Operation Dark Horizon was activated immediately. Every human colony, every ship, every communication relay would go completely silent. Humanity would disappear from the galactic stage entirely, leaving only automated systems to maintain the appearance of normal activity. The plan was massive in scope. Every human settlement had underground bunkers equipped with quantum-shielded communication systems. Every ship had hidden compartments where crews could retreat behind electromagnetic barriers. Every space station had been secretly modified with shielding technology that made human thoughts undetectable. Jake remembered the last briefing before the silence began. General Marcus Webb had stood before the assembled commanders, his face grave. "We're not just hiding," he had said, "we're preparing." The ancient message included more than warnings. It included weapon specifications, shield designs, and tactical data. While the galaxy panics about our silence, we'll be building the tools to fight back. The silence had begun exactly 72 hours after the message arrived. The last human transmission was a routine weather report from Mars colony. After that, nothing. Every human in the galaxy simply vanished from the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, Jake watched the alien probe signals on his screens. The Zephyrians were becoming desperate. Their economy depended on human trade. Their military relied on human tactical innovations. Their entire understanding of galactic politics had been built around humanity's unpredictable nature. "Sir," called Lieutenant Bobby Hansen from the tactical station, "we're picking up movement from the Dominion fleet. Admiral Zechthel is moving. Ships toward the outer colonies." Jake smiled grimly. "Let him come. He'll find empty space or automated defenses. No humans to capture or interrogate." The plan was working perfectly. Every human settlement appeared to be functioning normally from the outside. Ships followed their regular routes. Space stations maintained their orbits. Cities showed normal power consumption patterns. But every human had retreated into shielded underground facilities or hidden compartments. Dr. Ryan Clark worked in one such facility, buried deep beneath the surface of Europa, Jupiter's ice moon. His team had been reverse engineering the ancient technology from the Andromeda message. The results were staggering. The extinct civilization had developed weapons that could destroy the approaching entities, but only if they could be lured into a trap. "The quantum resonance field is almost ready," Ryan reported to his team. "But we need the entities to come close enough to Earth for the weapon to work. That means letting them think they've found a concentration of minds here." The ancient enemy was called the Devourers in the translated messages. They were described as massive biomechanical entities that fed on the psychic energy of thinking beings. They had consumed entire civilizations, leaving behind only empty planets and silence. The Andromeda civilization had tried to fight them directly. It hadn't worked. They had tried to hide in space. The Devourers had found them anyway. Only in their final days had they discovered the truth. The entities tracked consciousness itself. The only way to hide was to become mentally invisible, but the ancient civilization had also learned how to build a trap. The weapon required all the Devourers to be in one place, focused on one target. It required perfect timing and absolute coordination. Most importantly, it required bait. Humanity was going to be that bait. Jake looked out the viewport at Earth floating in the distance. The planet looked peaceful, its blue oceans and white clouds unchanged. But beneath the surface, in hidden bunkers and shielded facilities, billions of humans were preparing for the fight of their lives. The silence was just the beginning. Soon the galaxy would understand why humanity had vanished. They would learn that the chaos and unpredictability that had always defined humans was actually preparation. Every human instinct for survival, every technological innovation, every military advance had been leading to this moment. The Devourers were coming. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but they were already doomed unless humanity's plan worked. Jake turned back to his command crew. "Maintain communications silence. Continue monitoring alien reactions. And remember, we're not just hiding, we're hunting." The silence that had caused panic among the alien species was actually the sound of humanity, getting ready to save the galaxy. The question was whether they would be ready in time, and whether the other species would survive long enough to see the truth. In the depths of space, something stirred. The Devourers had sensed the galaxy's presence and were accelerating their approach. The ancient enemy was coming, and humanity's time was running out. Ambassador Cathara paced back and forth across her office floor. Her 6 legs moved in quick, nervous steps as she tried to contact Earth for the 100th time that day. The communication device on her desk remained silent, showing only static where human voices should be. "This is impossible," she muttered in her native tongue, then switched to Galactic Common. "Humans don't just disappear. They're too loud, too active, too alive." The hegemony had been humanity's closest ally for over 50 years. Trade agreements, military cooperation, cultural exchanges, all of it was built on constant communication with human governments. Now, with Earth silent, the entire relationship was falling apart. Her aide, a young hegemony official named Velkith, entered the office carrying a data pad. "Ambassador, the trade convoy from Proxima Centauri is requesting instructions." "They're carrying rare minerals that were supposed to be delivered to Mars colony, but there's no response from human traffic control." Cathara stopped pacing. "What about the automated systems?" Are they still working? Yes, ma'am. The navigation beacons are active, the docking ports are operational, but no human is responding to communication requests. The convoy captain is afraid to proceed without permission. This was the problem spreading across the galaxy. Human trade made up 30% of all galactic commerce. Human ships carried goods between systems that had no other reliable transport. Human innovation drove technological advancement in dozens of species. Without human input, the galactic economy was starting to collapse. Tell the convoy to wait, Cathara ordered. And contact the Galactic Council. We need an emergency session. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Zekthal saw opportunity where others saw crisis. The Dominion war fleet had been watching human expansion with growing concern for decades. Humans were unpredictable, aggressive, and too powerful for their own good. Now, with Earth silent, it was time to act. Move the Third Fleet to the Tau Ceti system, he ordered his communications officer. Take the Fifth Fleet to Volf 359. I want human colonies surrounded before they can react. Sir, his tactical officer spoke up nervously. What if this is some kind of human trap? They're known for unusual strategies. Zekthal's reptilian face showed what might have been a smile. If it's a trap, we'll spring it and be done with them. If they're actually gone, we'll claim their territories for the Dominion. Either way, we win. The Dominion had always believed that humans were too chaotic to be trusted. Their rapid technological development, their willingness to fight against overwhelming odds, their refusal to accept established galactic law, all of it made them dangerous. With humanity silent, the Dominion could finally impose order on human space, but Admiral Zekthal didn't know that his fleet movements were being carefully monitored. Deep inside the asteroid belt, hidden behind electromagnetic shields, Dr. Ryan Clark watched the Dominion ships on his screens. The Dominion is taking the bait, he reported to his team. They're moving toward the outer colonies just as we predicted. Ryan's research station was completely invisible to normal sensors. The facility had been carved out of a large asteroid and surrounded by the same shielding technology that was hiding human minds from the approaching devourers. From the outside, it looked like empty space. Inside, it was humanity's most advanced research facility. Any word from the deep space sensors? Asked Dr. Susan Wright, his lead scientist. Ryan checked his displays. The devourers are still 6 months out, but they're accelerating. The ancient calculations were correct. They're drawn to areas with high concentrations of thinking minds. The plan was working perfectly. By going silent, humanity had made the galaxy's other species more active. Aliens were sending more messages, holding more meetings, generating more mental activity as they tried to understand what had happened to Earth. The increased psychic activity would draw the devourers toward the most populated systems first. Are the weapon systems ready? Susan asked. The quantum resonance field generator is at 90% completion. The targeting systems are online. But we still need to lure the devourers into the exact right position for the weapon to work. The ancient civilization's records had been very specific. The devourers could only be destroyed if they were caught in a focused quantum field that disrupted their ability to feed on consciousness. The field had to be generated from multiple points simultaneously, and the entities had to be concentrated in a small area of space. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council Station, representatives from 47 different species gathered in emergency session. The great chamber buzzed with worried voices speaking in dozens of languages. Council Chairman Morgoth, a massive creature with stone-like skin, called for order. We are here to discuss the human situation. Ambassador Cathara, please present your report. Cathara stood and activated the holographic display. It has been 5 days since Earth went silent. We have confirmed that human cities are still operational. Their ships are still moving, but no human has responded to communication attempts. Trade is disrupted. Military cooperation has ceased. The economic impact is already severe. Could they have been destroyed? Asked Representative Veluron from the Symmetry Collective. No, Cathara replied. Life signs are still detected on all human worlds. Their power grids are active. Their orbital structures are functioning. They're there. but they're not responding. Representative Shaktif from the Crystal Republic spoke up. This could be a human deception. They're known for unusual military strategies. Or, interrupted Admiral Zekthal, who had been granted permission to address the council, they're dead, and we're looking at automated systems maintaining the illusion of life. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to send investigation fleets to human space. Others wanted to impose sanctions or declare human territory unclaimed. A few suggested that this might be a natural disaster or alien attack. None of them suspected the truth dot in the hidden bunkers beneath Earth's surface. President John Hayes met with his senior staff. The Global Defense Initiative headquarters was buried 2 kilometers underground, surrounded by quantum shielding that made it completely invisible to outside sensors. The alien reactions are exactly what we predicted, reported General Marcus Webb. The hegemony is panicking about trade disruption. The Dominion is moving fleets toward our colonies. The Galactic Council is calling emergency sessions. All of this increased activity is creating exactly the kind of mental signature that will attract the Devourers. And our preparations? Hayes asked. Colonel Amy Rodriguez is coordinating the deception perfectly. Every human settlement appears normal from the outside. Our people are safe in shielded facilities. The automated systems are maintaining the illusion that we're still active. What about the weapon? Dr. Clark reports that the quantum resonance field generator will be ready in 4 months. The targeting systems are being installed in hidden locations throughout the solar system. When the Devourers arrive, we'll be ready for them. Hayes nodded. And the other species? They don't know what's coming. The ancient warning was sent only to us. By the time they realize the danger, it will be too late for them to prepare. This was the hardest part of the plan. Humanity could have warned the other species about the Devourers. They could have tried to organize a galactic defense. But the ancient records were clear. The entities were attracted to active minds working together. The more species that knew about the threat, the stronger the psychic signature would become. Humanity had to let the galaxy remain ignorant. They had to let other species panic about Earth's silence while secretly preparing to save them all. Sir, General Webb continued, there's something else. Our deep space monitors have detected unusual readings from the galactic edge. The Devourers are moving faster than expected. They may arrive in 4 months instead of 6. Hayes felt a chill run down his spine. Can we be ready in 4 months? We'll have to be. The weapon will be functional, but we won't have time for full testing. We'll get one chance to make this work. The president looked around the room at his advisors. Then we better make it count. The entire galaxy is depending on us and they don't even know it. Above them, the surface of Earth continued its normal routine. Cities hummed with automated activity. Ships followed their programmed routes. Everything looked peaceful and normal, but deep underground, humanity was preparing for the fight of their lives. The silence that had caused panic among the alien species was actually the sound of humanity getting ready to save the galaxy. The question was whether they would be ready in time. Detective Inspector Yulmaven stood on the bridge of the investigation ship Truthseeker as it entered Earth's solar system. The Joint Alien Task Force had been assembled from 6 different species, each bringing their best scientists and investigators to solve the mystery of humanity's silence. Beginning deep scan of the inner planets, announced Dr. Shieleth, the team's lead physicist. Her crystalline body reflected the light from the ship's displays as she worked. Energy readings are consistent with normal human activity. Population centers show expected heat signatures, but the quantum patterns are wrong. Yulmaven turned his attention to the main screen. Earth looked perfectly normal from space. The blue and green planet rotated peacefully, its orbital stations moving in their regular patterns. Space traffic flowed normally between Earth and Mars. Everything appeared exactly as it should. What do you mean by wrong? He asked. Human consciousness has a specific quantum signature, Dr. Shieleth explained. It's chaotic, unpredictable, very different from other species. But I'm not detecting any human thought patterns. It's as if they exist in a parallel state, present but unreachable. The investigation team had been working for 2 weeks. visiting human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every settlement was the same. Cities functioning normally, ships following their routes, power grids operating perfectly. But no human would respond to communication attempts. "Sir," called Lieutenant Kextall from the communications station, "I'm detecting movement from the surface. A transport ship is launching from North America." On the main screen, they watched a human cargo vessel rise from Earth's surface. It moved with the same smooth efficiency as always, following standard flight patterns toward the asteroid belt. The ship's identification signals were broadcasting normally, but there was no response to hails. "Follow that ship," Yomaven ordered. "But keep our distance. I want to see where it goes." The transport ship led them deep into the asteroid belt, past the mining stations and processing facilities. Finally, it docked with what appeared to be a standard or processing platform. The platform's lights were on, its docking arms functioned normally, but like everywhere else, there was no communication. "I'm reading life signs aboard both the ship and the platform," reported Dr. Shieleth. "Human biosignatures are clearly present, but their quantum patterns are completely shielded." "Shielded how? I don't know. It's technology I've never seen before. It's as if their minds are wrapped in some kind of barrier that makes them undetectable to normal sensors." What the alien investigators couldn't see was the truth. The ore processing platform was actually a hidden military facility, and the transport ship was carrying supplies to the human crews working inside. Every human in the facility was operating behind electromagnetic shields that made their thoughts invisible to outside detection. Colonel Amy Rodriguez watched the alien investigation ship from the facility's hidden command center. The shields around the platform were so advanced that the aliens saw only what the humans wanted them to see, a normal, automated facility with no conscious minds inside. "They're persistent," she noted to her communications officer. "This is the third investigation team this week? Should we be worried?" asked Lieutenant Peter Collins. "No, the shielding technology is perfect. They can detect our bodies but not our minds. As far as they know, we're all in some kind of coma or suspended animation." The alien investigation was actually helping humanity's plan. Every probe, every scan, every attempt to understand the silence was creating exactly the kind of focused attention that would attract the devourers. The ancient entities were drawn to areas where multiple species concentrated their thoughts and energy. Back on the investigation ship, Yomaven was growing frustrated. "We've been at this for weeks. Every human settlement is the same. They're there, but they're not there. What could cause an entire species to become unreachable? Disease?" suggested Dr. Velkoth from the medical station. "Some kind of virus that affects consciousness?" "Mind control," offered Commander Zakthren. "Another species could be controlling them, making them unable to respond." Dr. Shieleth shook her head. "No, this is something else. The quantum patterns suggest they're actively maintaining the barrier. This isn't something being done to them, it's something they're doing themselves." The investigation team had no way of knowing that their theories were being monitored and recorded. Every alien message, every scientific discussion, every tactical analysis was being intercepted by human intelligence networks. The information was being compiled and analyzed by teams of experts working in hidden facilities throughout the galaxy. Dr. Ryan Clark received the latest intelligence reports in his asteroid research station. The alien investigation was proceeding exactly as humanity had hoped. The various species were becoming more and more focused on the human silence, generating the kind of mental activity that would serve as a beacon for the approaching devourers. "The quantum resonance field generator is ready," reported Dr. Susan Wright. "We've completed the final tests. The weapon will work, but we need the targets to be positioned exactly right." "And the targeting systems?" "Installed and calibrated. We have generators hidden in 12 locations throughout the solar system. When the devourers arrive, we can create a focus field that will disrupt their ability to feed on consciousness." Ryan looked at the long-range sensors. "They're 2 months out now. The alien investigation is providing perfect cover. The devourers will be drawn to the concentrated mental activity in this system. The plan was working, but it required perfect timing. The devourers had to be lured close enough to Earth for the weapon to work, but not so close that they could detect the hidden human population. The ancient civilization's records had been very specific about the entities' abilities and weaknesses. On the Galactic Council Station, the emergency sessions continued. Representatives from dozens of species debated what to do about the human situation. The economic disruption was spreading across the galaxy, trade routes were failing, military alliances were breaking down. "We must send a military force to investigate," declared Admiral Zexel. "The Dominion fleet is ready to enter human space and determine what has happened." "That could be seen as an act of war," protested Ambassador Cathara. "If the humans are still conscious but choosing not to communicate, a military incursion could trigger a conflict." "Better a war than this uncertainty," Zexel replied. "The galaxy cannot function with one of its major species unreachable." The debate was exactly what humanity had expected. The alien species were becoming increasingly focused on the human silence, generating more and more mental activity. Their worry, their fear, their anger, all of it was creating the kind of psychic signature that would draw the devourers like a beacon dot in the hidden bunkers beneath Earth's surface. President John Hayes monitored the situation with growing concern. The plan was working, but the timeline was accelerating. The devourers were moving faster than expected, and the alien investigation was intensifying. "Sir," reported General Marcus Webb, "the Dominion is mobilizing a battle fleet. They're planning to enter the Sol system within days. Can we maintain the deception if they arrive in force?" "Colonel Rodriguez believes so. The shielding technology will hold. But if they start using deep penetration scans or quantum probes, they might detect our hidden facilities." Hayes nodded grimly. "Then we better hope the devourers arrive first." It was a terrible thing to hope for. The ancient entities would bring death and destruction to the galaxy. But they were also the key to humanity's plan. The devourers had to be lured to Earth, concentrated in one location, so the quantum weapon could destroy them. "What about the other species?" Hayes asked. "Are they ready for what's coming?" "They don't know what's coming," Webb replied. "The ancient warning was sent only to us. By the time they realize the danger, it will be too late for them to prepare." This was the hardest part of the plan. Humanity could have warned the other species about the devourers. They could have tried to organize a galactic defense. But the ancient records were clear. The entities were attracted to active minds working together. The more species that knew about the threat, the stronger the psychic signature would become. The investigation ship, Truth Seeker, continued its scans of the Sol system. Detective Inspector Yul Maven was determined to solve the mystery of humanity's silence. He had no idea that his investigation was part of a plan to save the galaxy. "Sir," called Dr. Shileth, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the outer system. Long-range sensors are picking up something approaching from interstellar space." Yul Maven looked at the display. "What kind of something?" "Unknown. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever it is, it's massive and moving very fast." The devourers were ahead of schedule. Humanity's time was running out. The first star went out without warning. The Kepler system, home to 3 billion beings from the Harmony Collective, simply vanished from all sensors. One moment it was there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space where an entire solar system had existed. Detective Inspector Yul Maven received the emergency transmission while still investigating the Sol system. His ship's communication officer was pale with fear as he reported the news. "Sir, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. The Kepler system is gone, completely gone. No debris, no radiation, no trace that it ever existed." Yul Maven felt a chill run through his body. "Gone how?" "Stars don't just disappear. Unknown, sir. But there are reports of something massive moving through that region of space. Something that the deep space sensors can barely detect." Before Yul Maven could respond, another message arrived. Then another, the vegan system, had gone dark. The Altair colonies were not responding. Across the galaxy, entire solar systems were falling silent, but this was different from Earth's silence. This was the silence of death. "Sir," called Dr. Shella from her station, "I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions at the edge of the galaxy. Something enormous is moving through space, and it's heading toward the core systems." On the hidden research station in the asteroid belt, Dr. Ryan Clark watched the same sensor readings with grim satisfaction. The Devourers had arrived ahead of schedule, but they were following the predicted pattern. They were consuming the outer systems first, feeding on the consciousness of entire civilizations. "The entities are moving faster than the ancient records indicated," he reported to his team. "They're not just feeding, they're accelerating toward areas with higher concentrations of mental activity." "The galactic core," said Dr. Susan Wright. "All the major civilizations are there. The hegemony, the dominion, the council worlds." "And Earth," Ryan added. "The investigation fleets, the emergency council sessions, all the worry about our silence. It's creating exactly the kind of beacon that will draw them here." The plan was working perfectly, but the timeline had collapsed. The Devourers would reach the Sol system within days, not weeks. Humanity's quantum weapon was ready, but there would be no time for final tests or preparations. "Send the activation codes to all stations," Ryan ordered. "It's time to break the silence." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been running on automated systems for months suddenly came alive. Crews emerged from their shielded compartments and took control of their vessels. Communication networks activated, revealing that humanity had been present and watching all along. General Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative as the first human messages in months were transmitted across the galaxy. The silence was broken, but not in the way the aliens had expected. "This is General Webb of the Earth Defense Force," he broadcast on all frequencies. "To all species receiving this message, we know what's coming, we know how to stop it. But we need your immediate cooperation." The response was immediate and chaotic. Alien communication networks exploded with messages of confusion, anger, and fear. The humans had been there all along, watching, waiting, preparing while the galaxy panicked. On the investigation ship, Truthseeker, Detective Inspector Yulmaven stared at his communication console in shock. After months of silence, the humans were suddenly everywhere, their ships decloaking throughout the solar system, their voices filling the communication channels. "Human vessel, this is Inspector Yulmaven," he transmitted. "We demand an explanation. Where have you been? What is happening to the galaxy?" The response came from a ship that had been invisible moments before. "Inspector, this is Commander Helen Swift of the Earth Defense Force. We've been here the entire time, preparing for what's coming. The entities destroying the outer systems are called the Devourers. They feed on consciousness itself, and they're heading for the core systems." "You knew about this?" Yulmaven demanded. "You knew the galaxy was under attack and you said nothing." "We received a warning from an ancient civilization," Helen explained. "The Devourers are attracted to active minds. The more species that knew about the threat, the stronger the beacon would become. We had to let the galaxy remain ignorant while we prepared the only weapon that can stop them." The truth was spreading across the galaxy as human ships revealed themselves in system after system. The species that had been angry about humanity's silence were now terrified by the revelation that Earth had been preparing for an invasion that no one else had seen coming. Admiral Zekthal of the Dominion Fleet was in the middle of planning his assault on human space when the news arrived. His tactical officer brought him the latest reports with shaking hands. "Sir, the humans are claiming they have a weapon that can destroy the entities. They're requesting all surviving fleets to converge on the Sol system." Zekthal's reptilian face twisted with rage. "This is some kind of human trick. They create a crisis and then present themselves as the solution. Sir, 3 more systems have gone dark in the last hour. The Centauri colonies, the Proxima stations, the Volf system, whatever these entities are, they're real. The admiral looked at the tactical display showing the approaching threat. The Devourers were moving through space like a wave of destruction, consuming everything in their path. His military mind quickly understood the implications. "Change course," he ordered. "Set course for Earth. If the humans have a weapon, we need to be there when they use it." The same decision was being made throughout the galaxy. The hegemony fleet under Admiral Kithara was already moving toward Sol. The Crystal Republics had dispatched their defense forces. Even the normally neutral Symmetry Collective was sending ships. On Earth, President John Hayes addressed the Planetary Defense Council. The underground bunkers had been opened, and humanity was finally emerging from hiding. The surface cities were buzzing with activity as people prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. "The weapon is ready," reported Dr. Clark via secure communication. "The quantum resonance field generators are in position. But we need the Devourers to be concentrated in a specific area of space for the weapon to work." "How do we get them to concentrate?" Hayes asked. "We give them what they want," replied General Webb. "The largest concentration of conscious minds in the galaxy. Every ship, every species, every thinking being gathered in one place. The plan was audacious and terrifying. Humanity would use the combined fleets of the galaxy as bait, drawing the Devourers into the solar system where the quantum weapon could destroy them. But if the plan failed, every major civilization would be wiped out in a single battle." "Sir," reported Colonel Amy Rodriguez, "the alien fleets are arriving ahead of schedule. The Dominion battle group will be here in 6 hours. The hegemony fleet is 12 hours out. The Council forces are scattered but moving toward our position. And the Devourers? 18 hours, maybe less. They're accelerating toward the concentrated mental activity in this system," Hayes nodded grimly. "Then we better hope our allies arrive first. Send the tactical data to all incoming fleets. They need to know what they're facing." The data packages transmitted to the alien fleets contained everything humanity had learned about the Devourers. The entities were massive biomechanical constructs, part machine and part living organism. They fed on the psychic energy of conscious beings, draining entire civilizations of their ability to think and feel. The ancient civilization that had sent the warning had fought the Devourers for centuries before developing the quantum weapon. The entities could only be destroyed by disrupting their ability to feed on consciousness. But the weapon required perfect timing and coordination. Commander Helen Swift coordinated the defense from her flagship, New Horizon. The ship had been hidden in Earth's shadow for months, its crew preparing for this moment. Now it was the command center for the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. "All incoming vessels, this is Commander Swift," she broadcast. "You are entering a combat zone. The entities called the Devourers will arrive within hours. We have one chance to stop them, but it requires every ship to follow our tactical plan exactly." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species were converging on the Sol system. The very species that had been angry about humanity's silence were now depending on human leadership to survive, but the Devourers were coming and they were hungry. The concentration of so many minds in one place was like a beacon calling them forward. The ancient enemy had found its next feast, and it was accelerating toward Earth. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The Devourers entered the Sol system like a dark wave of destruction. 3 massive biomechanical entities, each the size of a small moon, moved through space with impossible speed. Behind them followed a trail of empty darkness where entire star systems had once existed. Captain LeVar Davis stood on the bridge of the human flagship New Horizon as the combined galactic fleet prepared for battle. Around her, hundreds of ships from dozens of species formed defensive lines between Earth and the approaching threat. The hegemony cruisers, Dominion battleships, Crystal Republic fighters, and vessels from 40 other civilizations created the largest military formation in galactic history. "All ships, this is Captain Davis," she broadcast on the fleet communication channel. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy them with conventional weapons. Our job is to keep them concentrated in the target zone while the quantum weapon charges." The response came from Admiral Kithara aboard the Hegemony flagship. "Captain, our sensors show these entities are unlike anything we've ever seen. They're draining energy from space itself as they move." "That's how they feed," Lover explained. "They consume the psychic energy of conscious beings. The more minds they encounter, the stronger they become." Admiral Zekthal's voice crackled over the communications system from his Dominion battlecruiser. "How long do we need to hold them?" 12 minutes, Lavar replied. "The quantum resonance field generators need 12 minutes to reach full power. And create the disruption field. 12 minutes. It didn't sound like much time, but Lavar knew it would feel like forever once the battle began. The ancient records had been very clear about the Devourer's abilities. They could drain the life from entire fleets in minutes, leaving behind only empty ships drifting through space. In the hidden research station, Dr. Ryan Clark monitored the weapon systems with growing tension. The quantum resonance field generators were positioned throughout the solar system, hidden in asteroids, behind moons, and in the depths of space. When activated simultaneously, they would create a field that disrupted the Devourer's ability to feed on consciousness. "Power levels are at 60% and climbing," reported Dr. Susan Wright. 8 minutes to full activation. Target acquisition is locked, added Lieutenant Tony Martinez from the targeting station. All 3 entities are within the disruption field perimeter. The plan was working perfectly. The Devourers had been drawn to the concentration of minds in the Sol system, and they were positioning themselves exactly where the quantum weapon could destroy them. But the entities were also more powerful than the ancient records had indicated. The first Devourer reached the outer edge of the fleet formation and immediately began feeding. Ships from the Symmetry Collective simply stopped functioning as their crews fell unconscious. The vessels continued moving forward, but there was no life left aboard them. "All ships maintain formation," Lavar ordered. "Do not break ranks. The weapon needs them to stay concentrated." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourers didn't use conventional weapons. They simply moved through space, draining the consciousness from every thinking being they encountered. Ships that came too close became ghost vessels, their crews alive but unable to think or act. Commander Helen Swift led a squadron of human fighters in a desperate attempt to distract the entities. Her small ships darted around the massive Devourers, drawing their attention and keeping them focused on the center of the formation. "This is Swift to all fighters," she transmitted. "Stay mobile, stay spread out. Don't let them concentrate their feeding on any one group." The human fighters had been specially modified with the same quantum shielding that had hidden humanity for months. They could operate closer to the Devourers than other species, but even their protection was limited. 6 minutes to weapon activation, came Dr. Clark's voice over the communication system. Admiral Zekthal watched from his command bridge as the second Devourer approached his battle line. The massive entity was beautiful in a terrible way, its biomechanical surface shifting and changing as it moved. But its beauty was the beauty of death. "All ships, prepare for contact," he ordered. "Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to survive it." The Dominion ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma cannons, missile swarms, all of it struck the Devourer's surface and had no effect. The entity continued moving forward, its feeding tendrils reaching out toward the conscious minds aboard the ships. "Shields are holding," reported the tactical officer. "But the entity is draining power from our systems. We're losing life support on decks 7 through 12. The same scene was playing out across the fleet the Devourers were feeding on. The psychic energy of the crews and conventional defenses were useless. Ships were losing power, crew members were falling unconscious, and the formation was beginning to break apart. 4 minutes to activation, Dr. Clark reported. The entities are moving deeper into the target zone. Ambassador Kithara coordinated the hegemony response from her flagship. Her people had been humanity's closest allies, but even she had doubted the human plan. Now, watching the Devourers consume everything in their path, she understood why. Earth had gone silent. All hegemony vessels focus fire on the lead entity, she ordered. We need to slow them down. The concentrated fire from the hegemony fleet had the desired effect. The Devourer turned its attention toward the attacking ships, moving away from the other fleets and deeper into the target zone. It was exactly what the quantum weapon needed. 2 minutes to activation, came the update from the research station, but the cost was enormous. The third Devourer had reached the inner formation and was feeding on the Council ships. Vessels from a dozen different species were going dark as their crews lost consciousness. The fleet was holding together, but barely. Captain Lavra Davis made the hardest decision of her life. All ships, this is Davis, execute final protocol. Draw them deeper into the target zone. The final protocol was a desperate gambit. Every ship in the fleet would move directly toward the Devourers, offering themselves as bait to keep the entities concentrated in the exact center of the quantum field. It was a suicide mission, but it was the only way to ensure the weapon would work. The response was immediate. Ships from every species in the galaxy turned toward the Devourers and accelerated. They knew they were flying to their deaths, but they also knew it was the only way to save their civilizations. 1 minute to activation. Dr. Clark announced that the Devourers were now concentrated in a tight formation at the center of the solar system. Hundreds of ships surrounded them, their crews unconscious or dying, but their sacrifice was working. The entities were exactly where they needed to be. 30 seconds, came the countdown. Lavra looked around her bridge. Half her crew was unconscious, drained by the nearby Devourer. The ship's systems were failing, and she could feel her own consciousness beginning to fade. But they had held the line. 10 seconds, Dr. Clark reported. 5.4.3.1. Activating quantum resonance field. The weapon fired from 12 different locations simultaneously. Beams of pure quantum energy converged on the Devourers, creating a field that disrupted their ability to feed on consciousness. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient entities were vulnerable. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourers' biomechanical surfaces began to dissolve as the quantum field tore apart their feeding mechanisms. They writhed in space, their massive forms breaking apart as the weapon continued to fire. Then, in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth, the Devourers exploded. The 3 entities that had consumed entire civilizations were destroyed. In seconds, their remains scattered across the solar system. The battle was over. The galaxy was safe. In the aftermath, the surviving ships began rescue operations. Crews that had been drained by the Devourers slowly regained consciousness. Ships that had gone dark came back online. The fleet that had seemed doomed minutes earlier was alive and victorious. All ships, this is Captain Davis, Lavra broadcast weekly. The threat is eliminated. The galaxy is secure. The response was overwhelming. Cheers, celebrations, and messages of gratitude flooded the communication channels. The species that had been angry about humanity's silence now understood why Earth had gone dark. The sacrifice had been necessary, and it had saved them all. President John Hayes addressed the galaxy from the surface of Earth. The underground bunkers had been opened, and humanity was finally free to rejoin galactic civilization. To all species. Receiving this message, he said, "The silence is over. Earth stands ready to work with all of you to rebuild what was lost and to prepare for any future threats." We went silent not because we were afraid, but because we were listening. The galaxy is full of wonders, but it's also full of dangers. We'll make sure you never have to face them alone again. The response was immediate. Trade agreements were renewed, military alliances were strengthened, and humanity's place in the galaxy was forever changed. They were no longer the chaotic newcomers. They were the protectors, the species that had saved everyone else. Years later, memorial stations throughout the galaxy bore a simple inscription: "In silence, we found our voice. In darkness, we became the light." The panic that had once spread among aliens as Earth